When a family brings in the rebellious teenager and says, fix her, a family systems therapist doesn't look at the teenager. They look at everything. The communication patterns, the power dynamics, the unspoken rules, the alliances and the triangulations, the generational patterns. Because more often than not, the kids who are acting out is usually the one who's most honest about the fact that something in the family isn't working. They're the canary in the coal mine. They're the smoke detector going off. And what the family is asking the therapist to do is essentially disconnect that smoke detector so they can ignore the fire. I see this all the time in healthcare. All the time. A parent brings in a teenager who's out of control, arguing, withdrawing, refusing to follow rules. And when you start exploring the family context, you find parents going through a divorce they hadn't told the kids about. A parent with untreated depression or anxiety. Rigid, authoritarian household rules with no room for negotiations. A sibling who's the golden child, while the kid is the scapegoat. Generational trauma that nobody's ever addressed. Financial stress that's creating tension, nobody's name it. And a fundamental mismatch between the parent's expectations and the teen's developmental needs. And then the teen, who doesn't have the language or the power to say, hey, something is wrong with our family system and I need someone to acknowledge it. They expresses it in the only way they can, through behavior. Through resistance, through what the adults call rebellion. That's not pathology. That's communication. And here's where modern family therapy diverges so sharply from the 1953 approach. In 1953, the goal was to get the girl to stop being rebellious, to restore the previous order, to put her back into the box. In modern evidence-based family therapy, the goal is completely different. The goal is to help the entire family system evolve, to improve communication across the board, to help parents understand their teenagers' developmental needs, to help the teenager feel heard and validated, to build mutual trust and respect, not one-directional compliance. It's not about the girl submitting to the parents. It's not about the parents submitting to the girl. It's about creating a family system where everyone has a voice. Everyone's needs are considered, and conflict becomes an opportunity for growth rather than a power struggle. And the research on this is overwhelming. Family-based interventions for adolescents' behavioral issues consistently outperform individual therapy alone. Why? Because you're not just treating the symptom. You're treating the system that's producing the symptom. But that requires something uncomfortable. It requires the parents to change too. It requires them to look into the mirror, to examine, as that 1953 book accidentally suggested, their own relationship to the child, and not just examine it as a barrier to fixing the child. Examine it as the actual work. That's hard. I'm not going to pretend that it's not. It's hard for a parent to hear your child's behavior might be a response to something you're doing. That can feel like blame. That can feel like an attack. And a good therapist will navigate that with compassion and skill. But the willingness to look at the whole picture, to ask what's happening in our family instead of what's wrong with my kid. That's where the real transformation happens. And I have enormous respect for the parents that can do that work. Enormous respect, because it takes guts, it takes humility, and it takes a kind of love that goes beyond wanting your kid to behave. It's wanting your kid to thrive, even if that means you have to grow too.